Hello, I am the demon of the 124th Circle of Hell, and today we are going to be taking a look at Schism by Tool. This has been a very highly requested song, and I really can't wait to see what all of the hype is about and what everyone's been going on about. I'm moonlighting as a succubus tonight. Anyway, Maynard always gives me a plethora of seemingly little puzzles in his lyricism to break down and go through, um, and just seeing the world through his lens and kind of having to break things apart to try to extrapolate a meaning from it has been very interesting. So without any further ado, let us get into Schism by Tool. Ooh, that is ominous. That is ominous. Oh, catchy bass line. That is hypnotic. Oh, those bongos, yo. They sound like bongos, but I hear drums too. Okay. Ooh. Interesting. Okay, before we get into this next section, these lyrics, they are something else to unpack. This is next level lyricism to me. But let's try to unpack this a bit. So, right from the hop, very almost like an encryption. I want to try to unlock it. I know the pieces fit because I watched them fall away. Mildewed and smoldering, fundamental differing, pure intention juxtaposed. I can't say that word. Juxtaposed. Pure will set two lovers, souls in motion, disintegrating as it goes, testing our communication. So it sounds like it's a love song, oddly enough. I wasn't, until the word lovers came up, I didn't see it from that context, so that's actually quite surprising to me. If what I'm gathering, it's a relationship that's not going too well. But the way that he words it is so interesting. It's so metaphorical, and it paints a picture, describes the feeling like mildewed and smoldering, a fundamental differing, I assume, of opinion, where, if there's a fundamental difference between you and your partner, it's not going to work out. It's just not going to work out. Pure intention juxtaposed will set two of our souls in motion, disintegrating as it goes, testing our communication. Interesting. Oh, wow. That is a mouthful. Interesting. But the first line, I know the pieces fit because I watched them fall away. So it's almost like there's a hope there of it continuing. Of putting things back together. We got to continue this. Let's see here. Backtrack. Ooh. Oh. That is dirty guitar. That is dirty. And I like it a lot. I saw a little differing in the lyrics there. I want to point this out very quickly. Now in the bridge, it's interesting because I let me explain this. Like, the light that fueled our fire then has burned a hole between us, so we cannot seem to reach an end, crippling our communication. That's almost as though the passion that ignited them is now the catalyst for the burning of the bridge between them. And this was the actual bridge of the song. That's amazing. Did he do that purposely? Like, okay. To continue on through that into the next verse, here he says, no fault, none to blame, but it doesn't mean that I don't desire to point the finger, blame the other, to watch the temple topple over, to bring the pieces back together, rediscover communication. So, it's almost like he's saying, logically, this was no one's fault. Maybe an amicable, a very amicable split, but he says, but it doesn't mean that I don't desire, to burn everything down. But then he wants to bring the pieces back together from those ashes somehow and rediscover communication. But it's interesting because in a relationship, once you go so far in creating a rift between one another, it can't be salvaged. So that's very tricky territory. But it's interesting. It's almost like he doesn't want this relationship to go, but yet he wants to feel the wrathfulness between them. Let's continue on. I'm just getting that video pulled back up. Damn. Oh. Oh. Oh, interesting. Oh, wow. Oh, and the way it flows. Oh my God. I want to take a quick moment because again, it seems very rhythmic, right? And very much the same each verse, but there are subtle differences that completely change the meaning, of what you think he may be saying, and in here, the next bridge was the poetry that comes from the squaring off between, and the circling is worth it finding beauty in dissonance. Well, if you look at squaring off, I look at two people fighting. So circling makes sense, and the circling is worth it. And the poetry comes from that, from their quarrel. They're fighting. I'm taking this in a very metaphorical way. The quarrel is the beauty and the poetry. So it's almost like he wants something to hold on to. He wants to extrapolate some kind of beauty from this relationship. So the quarrel is, all he has left. Finding beauty in dissonance. Dissonance being a fundamental, I'm a fundamental differing of opinion. Don't mind me, I have a bit of a cold, so if I sound rumbly and yucky, I apologize in advance. Now, going to verse 3 here. There was a time where the pieces fit, but I lost them all the way. Strangled by our coveting. So, essentially, they loved that relationship so much that they smothered it, is what I'm extrapolating from that. That is fascinating. That is very interesting to me. I've done the math enough to know the dangers of our second guessing. Trust issues. Or maybe not trusting yourself. Maybe second guessing the relationship. Doomed to crumble unless we grow and strengthen our communication. So he's acknowledging room for growth there. So it's doomed to crumble unless we grow. But at this point, given the narrative, what is the room for growth between these two people is what I'm wondering. Truly, because he was just in the previous, bridge, he was enamored by the fight, the circling of one another. And now he's saying, doomed to crumble unless we grow. Strengthening our communication. That is so fascinating. Let's get back into it. Going to backtrack. The musicianship is bloody well amazing in this. I have to tell you. Oh, wow. Oh. Wow. It's hypnotic. It's so hypnotic. Wow. The instrumentation is building. It's building to something. That's fascinating. Wow. Oh. Wow. That is bloody well amazing. I'm on a journey right now. I like to break that down very quickly. Also, that solo was absolutely that solo instrumentation was absolutely astounding. Tool always manages to take me on a journey, and today's no different. A journey through consciousness and feeling. Just through their instrumentation alone, it's mind-boggling to me how they're able to do that. Because I'm the one taking the trip without leaving the farm, you know what I mean? Now, let's get to that next part here on the sheet. You can tell I was very well prepared. Now, cold silence has a tendency atrophy any sense of compassion between supposed lovers, So, their non-communication, from what I'm gathering, is essentially what did them in. As far as compassion, non-communication, and communication being very vital to a relationship working, is what did them in. As far as being a couple, very appropriate on Valentine's Day to be releasing this. I have to say, oh my goodness. Oh, between supposed lovers. So now it's almost like there's a resignation there of, the relationship not being the same. That's amazing. Let's continue. They're building something instrumentally. Wow. This is so trippy. I'm tripping out. Between supposed lovers. Again, that resignation. Damn. Get him, Maynard, get him. Damn. That scream at the end. Wow. That was absolutely amazing. An amazing outro. It just cut. Like, what? The instrumentation always leaves me speechless. I have no words for what these men are doing. There are so many time signature changes, eclectic instruments, and use of instrumentation. I want to highlight something lyrically from the end, and that would be, just the mantra of "I know the pieces fit" over and over and over again. So after that resignation, there is, but I know the pieces fit. I know they fit. I know this. So it's not wanting to let go of the relationship, not wanting, in the end, like not wanting to let it go. But almost like you have to, but it's like, it's almost like an inner dissonance with yourself. This whole song was actually like, bouncing back and forth between, you know, we're beautiful lovers, but we also suck at the same time with our fighting and our bickering, yet it's poetic and romantic. What an amazing song. Wow.